and I got the bug like right off the bat. Once I got off stage, I was like, I did classic there, which is
Which is
funny.
surprising. I saw that. That was
Yeah.
very surprising.
Yeah. So that was a long time ago. I was like 180 pounds.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to SuppTalk Radio. Some of you may recognize my guest as one of the hottest pros of 2023. Others may recognize him for his thick, flowing mane. While some may know him from the Fit Nation podcast. His Instagram says he's mediocre. I think he's fucking awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2022 USA overall champion, Mr. Stu Sutherland. Stu, how are you, buddy?
Howdy. I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate this, bro. I know you always play with the big boys, but I appreciate you coming on the Little Guy podcast here.
Yeah, dude. I can't say no. I probably need to learn, but all my friends call me a podcaster because I just kind of I like to talk. So
You're like you and Kennedy are like the new Milo Sarchev. Every time I look on the podcast,
he's the
you
worst.
guys are on him.
He's the worst. I mean, he's just like he likes to talk.
Dude, so I want to hit you right between the eyes here. One of the things you posted the other day in order to set this record straight, your first name is not Beef.
No, it's not. People call me Beef sometimes, and it's like, man, my mother does not like the Beef Stew nickname, but it's stuck, and we're rolling with it. My name is Stu. My mother calls me Stuart, but only her.
But is it Stuart when you're in trouble, or is Stuart all the time?
No, it's Stuart all the time with my mom. It's Stuart when I'm in trouble if it's my girlfriend. So
Okay.
Yeah, usually it's Stu from her though.
And Beef Stew, where did it come from? Was it Lacrosse that I read?
Yeah, so back in like junior, sophomore year of high school, I used to play lacrosse, like travel teams and stuff. I was decent at it. I didn't love it, but I was pretty good at it. And one of my buddies, just a funny dude on the team, he called me Beef Stew because like you wear these like pennies, like kind of jersey things, like cut no sleeves and cut off shoulder pads, and like I had delts back then, like you wouldn't expect on a high schooler who didn't work out. And so I looked more jacked than all the other kids, and Beef Stew, it's stuck. So
anything to do with the movie Benchwarmers? Did you ever see that movie?
I have not. No, I'm uncultured. Sorry.
Okay. It's Rob Schneider and a bunch of just misfits. And one of the things they call is Beef Stew, where it's basically a guy goes ahead, pins somebody down, and basically farts on his face. They call it a Beef Stew.
I learned something new today. Thanks. That makes me feel so much better.
So obviously the athlete in high school?
Yeah, so I played lacrosse, and I was as I got towards the end of high school, like the teams I were on were like kind of recruiting teams. So I was on the West Coast, lacrosse on the East Coast thing, as I'm sure you know, being from Jersey. So we do tournaments out there, and a lot of the kids were trying to get recruited. And I think if I'd really put my mind to it and practiced and worked at it like I do with bodybuilding, I probably could have gone on to one of those, college teams, maybe like a D3 one or something. But like my heart wasn't in it, not like it is in bodybuilding now.
Right.
So, I kind of just transitioned into lifting weights eventually because I needed something to do as an energetic kid. And that just kind of I kept on doing it in college. And then after I was done partying in college, like I just kind of snowballed and I got into, training, and that was just my life. So here we are now.
So in high school, were you a jack kid? Were you kind of average size? You talk about delts, but average size or what? I
mean, yeah, I was an athletic kid. I'm like 5'8". I was probably 160, 175, somewhere in that range. Right. Like I wasn't big. I remember hearing about like Nick Walker when he was in high school, when he was playing football. He was like 220, 215. Yep. He's like 5'7", right? So that's a big kid. I wasn't like that, but I also didn't start training for like bodybuilding really until I kind of got to college. Did a little, right. Like I was doing like 5x5s in my garage with my dad's weight set when I was in high school. And then, I kind of got more into it once I got to the college rec center gym. And it was a few years before I did my first show in 2017, but Yeah, I was actually between high school and starting like getting into bodybuilding seriously after a few years in college. I was on the cheer team at Oregon State for a little bit.
Oh,
So
geez.
yeah, so I was in a frat at the time, and we'd have these functions with like sororities, right? And bunch of sorority girls, they were former cheerleaders in high school, and they tried out for the team, and almost none of them made it, because it's hard as a girl.
Yeah.
If you have a pulse and you're a male, like they will get you on the team. They need people. So they were like, "Oh, you're pretty athletic, you're strong, like you should, just being at these functions with girls, like it'd be like you should try out for the cheer team." I was like, should do that, and I ended up being on there for like 6-7 months with the football games and stuff. It was a ball.
So
But while I was
closer to the women, you do it to get closer to the women though. At the end of the day,
no, not dude. I didn't know how to put a sentence together back then. So no, not for me at least. My teammates, that's another story. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And one of the guys that was on the team at the time was a friend of mine named Josh Sargent. Still one of my best friends, and he'd done like men's physique shows in the past. He'd been training for a long time. He was like into bodybuilding, and
yep.
at that point he kind of finished up competing. But he was like, dude, you should do a bodybuilding show. I was like, okay. And I ended up quitting the cheer team, and then a few months after that, I started prep for the first time, and that was beginning of 2017.
Okay.
And I got the bug like right off the bat. Once I got off stage, I was like, I did classic there, which is
surprising.
Funny.
I saw that. That was very surprising.
Yeah, so that was a long time ago. I was like 180 pounds. And, I could look at myself even back then. I was like, okay, there's like a frame here, but like I need way more muscle to look like anything impressive, right? So I knew I wasn't going to be able to stick in that class just because the weight cap. And even since they've raised it now, it's like, I think it's like back then it was 185. I think it's 195 for my height now. And that's nothing,
You'd be neutered.
Yeah. 2 years later, I was competing at like 214 as a heavyweight in 2019. So that was, and I still didn't look filled out. So, that was just no classic for Stu. But, so, nowadays I'm competing at like, I think it was like 250 at New York last year. So my body to look good needs a lot of tissue on it.
Yep.
So, that's, I kind of knew from the get, like, I'm not going to be able to get away with like being one of the smaller aesthetic guys. Not that I don't have like good lines necessarily, but it's like, I just had a lot to fill out. So,
yep. Wow. Who's the first person you saw in the bodybuilding stage, Stu? Magazine, online, was there anybody you said, oh, I like that physique, I want to be like that?
Back then, before I'd gotten on stage, I was like, YouTube fitness was really kind of picking up back then, like 2015, 2016. So if you remember guys like Matt Ogus,
oh yeah,
this is the only one that comes to mind right now. But like, I was watching YouTube stuff, and that's what popped up, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. You count your macros and work out and look jacked. I was like, this looks, it's better than developing a personality. Like, I'll just do this. So that was kind of where I got and then, my buddy told me that I should compete. And the first person in real life that I saw who was a bodybuilder was a mutual friend of me and Josh, Connor. And this kid is like just genetic freak. And he'd done a few shows. He's just like, I remember shaking his hand for the first time. And I thought, those like big battle ropes, like you like, that's what his arm looked like. It was so big and like knotted and crazy looking. And I was like 20 at the time, right? So I was like, this is insane. I've never seen anybody like that in real life. And I was like, man, this is cool. I want to look like that. And yeah, it's weird, like looking back, because I'm actually coaching that guy now, Connor. And yeah, and I think back, I was like, man, my perspective has changed a lot, because you're just surrounded by freaks all the time in this game. So yeah.
So you start competing. Do you have a coach, or you just kind of go through magazines? Like, how are you putting together your diet, training, all that good stuff? Are you blind?
Oh man, I was relatively blind. So my buddy Josh kind of helped me out a bit that first prep. I was doing like a cyclic keto thing. So like Monday through Friday, no carbs, just like protein and fat.
Yep.
And like I mentioned, I was in a frat, so I was living in the fraternity at the time, which is not good
Oh,
for
geez.
a prep. And so they had like a cereal bar down in the fraternity kitchen, just as much cereal as you could eat, right? So I would, on the weekends, I would basically just binge for like a day or two straight.
Shit.
And then no carbs for another 5 days, and then do it again. And it was a yo-yo diet, in retrospect. It was ridiculous, but I got pretty lean, I guess. But I didn't really know what I was doing. I was reading forums. I was, listening to like Dave Palumbo at the time because he was into like bodybuilder keto. I was like,
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
he was pretty shredded. So yeah, I was just kind of picking shit up from forums, Reddit, um, YouTube, whatever, trying to figure it out. The next time I competed in 2019, I did have a coach for that show as a local guy named Roger, and that was a lot smoother. You
Okay.
know, he laid everything out for me, and at that point I was using anabolics, so like it's not super complicated stuff necessarily, but if you've never done it before, it's like you can do some dumb shit.
Yep.
So he put me on the right path there, and um, that was in 2019, and
Was that show classic, or did you step in open for that
no,
one?
that was when I was a heavyweight, so I was
Okay.
214 ish. So it was
Oh, wow.
180
Okay.
first year, 214, and then in 2021, I did another show. It's actually the same show three times, the Emerald Cup up in
Yep.
Washington. Because I was living in Oregon, my parents live in Washington. I grew up here, and it was like 20 minutes from where they lived. So I'd come home from college, stay with the parents, go compete, and then just hang out for a few days, go home. It's easy. So anyways, 2021, I was graduating from college at that point, working in construction management. And that's when I hired Blue Taylor, my current coach, for the first time. And that was a long prep, dude. It was for the Emerald Cup. We started in like December, shows at the end of April. So it was 20-week prep.
Wow.
I was probably as lean there as I've ever been before, probably over dieted a bit, but
Were you that bad out of shape though? You needed 20 weeks or just to kind of test your body?
I didn't. I looked like I was 2 weeks out at 9 weeks out, like because Blue is control freak, which is good. He likes to start far out just in case, and
Yep.
we were on track, just like continually making progress, looking better and better. And all of a sudden, I was like really lean at like 8 weeks out. I was like, okay, what am I going to do for 8 weeks? But he kept pushing me, and that, like I said, that was the first time I ever really hit like true competition conditioning, like where the skin's really thin, like it needs to be.
Yep.
And yeah, to this date, like that's been the hardest prep so far for me.
Wow. Okay.
The last couple of years have been a lot smoother because he kind of knows my body better now. If you like push me down hard for 20 weeks, like I'm gonna get withered away, and that's kind of what happened. I was 221 in really good condition, but like I was stressed, like not mentally so much as like physically. My body looked beat up, stringy, and a little over dieted, but live and learn. And the next year, 18 months later, it was 15 months later between that Emerald Cup and the USA's. I went from like 220 up to 246 on stage.
Damn.
So had a really good off season with him. Really blew up, and that's where I went pro as a super heavy. And I knew, so like in 2021 we were thinking about doing the USA's that year. It was like I think a 13-week gap between the Emerald Cup and the USA's, which is an awkward time. Like what are you going to do with 14 weeks? You feed yourself up a bit and then come back down. And
would that have been like your fourth show then, Stu? If I do math, is that like your fourth show then? If you did that?
Yeah. So the USA's was technically my fifth. I did another show in 2017, but it was a train wreck that I don't like to talk about. It was the first time I ever used any. I started using gear after that, after my first show in April, and I did another show in October, and it was just, suffice to say, it was a train wreck. I didn't know what I was doing. I was taking way too much crap. My diet was a mess. It was bad. But so technically my fifth, but yeah. But it was 5 years since the first time I stepped on stage. I didn't compete a ton, but it was quite a while. And like I said right off the bat, like in 2021 we were thinking about doing the USA's, and I was like, yeah, I might be able to get in the first call outs there, but I'm not going to look how I want to look. I'm not going to look like a pro bodybuilder. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to compete at a pro show unless I look like a professional, like muscularity wise, at least. So that 15 months is what gave that to me. And
Okay.
so I competed at the USA's. I won there, and then I did the Tampa the next weekend, just because why not? I'm in shape, you know?
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went over there and I got seventh, which was kind of where mediocre came from.
Okay.
Because there was like 14 or 15 guys in the lineup, and I was seventh, like right in the middle of it, you know? And I was like, okay, it was middle of the road. That's mediocre. So there you go. And I still haven't won a show yet, so I haven't deemed it fit to bump that up to anything besides mediocre.
Stu, so when you started competing, was it like immediate saying, I want to go pro? Or was it like 2, 3, 4 shows? You're like, hey, I'm enjoying this. I want to go pro? Or like, when did that enter your mind?
I mean, the first show I did, I knew I wanted to compete, and I knew I needed to get way bigger. So, I was taking 2-year breaks between shows. A lot of people don't do that. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
even recommend that necessarily for a lot of people that I work with, because most people get fatter than I do. I stay really lean in the off season, even though I have to force a ton of food down, but
Yep.
most people, they need to stay in like a closer striking distance. But I needed a lot of muscle, so I spent the time putting it on. And I mean, there's like COVID in the middle of that as well in 2020,
Yeah.
between 2019 and 2021. And so I just knew I needed to get way bigger and way bigger. And I always kind of wanted to be a professional, I guess, but I needed to have the physique first, which is why I didn't do the show in 2021. Because I mean, the guy who won that year, Jordan Hutchinson, really good pro. Now he just did his debut last year. I don't think I could have beaten him at the
Okay.
USA's. I might have been the first call up. But I was like, what? I'm not going there unless I'm going to win. Now that I'm a professional, it's like the calculus is a little different, because
Yeah.
one person shows up, like Nick Walker at the New York Pro, for example, this year, and you're like, okay, we're not competing to win here, just to be realistic,
What
Nick
so
is
what are
so
mom and dad thinking along the way here? Are they supportive? Are they like, whatever you want to do, son? Or what are they thinking?
well. So we they're kind of laissez-faire with a lot of stuff. They're like,
Okay.
even in high school, they weren't going to be like helicopter parents or nothing. But my mother is concerned about the health implications, of course. My
Sure.
dad is an engineer. He's a very practical, smart guy. And he's
Okay.
like, I talk to him about the risk mitigation stuff that I'm doing, supplements, medications. It's, keep an eye on my blood work and stuff.
Yep.
Obviously, my mother is more emotional about the whole affair, but I think they're both happy that I have an outlet to pour myself into, because if it weren't this, it would be something more destructive, probably.
Really? Okay.
I mean, just knowing myself, like I'm an all or nothing kind of dude.
Okay.
So if I didn't have somewhere to put this energy, then I wouldn't be fulfilled or happy as a person. I'd find somewhere else to put it, whether that's partying or I don't know, riding motorcycles,
Yep.
whatever it is. So I'm glad I have that. I think they're glad I have that too.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference too with today's society is today's generation seems to be more conscious of their bloods in their labs
Oh my
versus
God,
back
yeah.
in the day. I think now, and maybe it's just me, but I also noticed that a lot of the pros now are not keeping more manageable in the off season versus just ballooning up. I mean, even
Yeah.
Nick made a change, because I know 2 years ago, Nick got up to like 300 at one
Yeah.
point. And now I
I
think he's
saw him
hovering like
in,
you're at 280, 285-ish with
yeah.
abs.
I remember seeing him in Tampa when he was 300 pounds.
Yeah.
I had never seen anybody take up that much space, like he's not tall. He was just like wide, it was
Yeah. Yeah.
insane. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think guys used to balloon up back in the day, and you're right, they didn't really look at their blood work because they didn't know. Maybe they kind of knew like, this could be unhealthy, but people weren't dying yet.
Yeah. True.
The people who had died were from diuretic abuse when,
Hmm.
back in the 90s, right? And that was like an acute thing, like oh shit, you overdid it, now your heart is failing, right? This isn't that like the result of 20 years of being 300 pounds and using a lot of drugs and not checking anything or taking any steps to mitigate it, right? That was just they. I don't think they knew any better back then. So like to point and laugh and be like, those idiots is just inappropriate, because I don't think anybody knew. I'm really lucky nowadays to be, like you said, coming up in an era of where everybody gets their blood work done multiple times a year, and they are taking steps to, control their blood pressure, control their cholesterol, keep their liver and kidneys in shape. And I just got my blood work done yesterday morning, actually, and it's shit's good. I mean, I've taken like 6 weeks off, and I'm ready to go for prep. But the reason why it's good is because I've taken steps while I was in my off season, pushing things harder to, keep those numbers under control throughout the whole period, right?
Yep.
So, because like the risk, when you're considering risk, it's a matter of dose and duration. So
Sure.
if you spend 20 weeks on like a ton of shit and then you're like 6 weeks clean and you get good blood work back, it's like, oh great, we're good. Look, it looks good.
Exactly.
It's took a month break and it's good enough, right? But like for those 20 weeks, what does it look like? You don't know because you didn't look. I actually did get my bloods checked, in the middle of my off season this year, and they were a little more skewed than they are now, but not by much. And I attribute that to like, taking steps year round to keep things under control with my blood work. So I think a lot more people are doing that nowadays. Not everybody, but like people don't want to die when they're 50,
Yeah.
and to that point, like I'm 27 now. If I could get a decade of mileage out of my body before I retire and, retire in my late 30s, 40 years old, great. I'm going to be 200 pounds before you know it.
Yep.
I'm going to be eating granola and going for hikes, man. I look forward to like being able to do other shit, because I can't do that right now. I was walking around Seattle yesterday with my girlfriend. And I was like, it's 280 plus. It's like you get out of breath. It's pretty pathetic, man. I can't go for hikes. I can't go skiing. Forget about it.
Do you get, when you're walking around in public, Stu, do you get a lot of like people looking like what's what I'm looking for? Like negativity, or are they just like, wow, that dude looks great? Or is it like, typical jacked steroids, beef head, whatever?
It's kind of weird. So I was in Arizona last year. I moved up to Washington State.
Okay.
In Arizona, people are a lot more like positive and receptive to it.
Awesome.
Like guys will just say what's up to you in the grocery store and be like, you're jacked. I'm like, thanks, dude. It was like a very positive thing. Here in Washington, I haven't had any negative interactions, but I haven't had any interactions like that either. So I can only assume that it's like people are a little more intimidated, I guess. This is a lot more kind of left wing, less macho kind of culture up here in the Northwest.
Granola-ish.
Yeah, granola-ish. Yeah, exactly. So, guys like me, there's like nobody up here like that. And nobody wants to be like that up here either. So it's not something that's like, I guess, glorified or like looked up to in the same way as a place like Arizona, or maybe Texas or something. So it's just a little different culture. I haven't had any negative interactions, but it's different for sure.
So is it tough on yourself training that there's not a lot of pros up there, or is it kind of you're able to motivate yourself without seeing it? Or maybe there are a lot of like upcoming pros. I don't know what Washington, the demographic looks like.
Washington's pretty dry, man. There's the Emerald Cup up here, which is a great show. And there have been good bodybuilders come out of this area over the last few decades, but right now there's a couple of guys around here who are pretty decent. I'm the only open pro up here. But yeah, I mean, the gym I go to, I'm like, there's like one or two other bodybuilders there, amateurs. I don't really see them in there too often. It is different. It's like you're not surrounded by, like if you were in Vegas, it would be very different, right? But I also don't really want to live in Vegas. My parents aren't there. It's dry and flat, and I kind of did that already in Arizona. I know I don't like that now. So it does it. I mean, I've always kind of trained alone, I've always kind of run my own race, I guess, but you know, so it doesn't bother me too much. It doesn't get in the way of what I'm doing, but yeah, I think the biggest thing is like the cultural difference is like I've had trouble making friends up here just because I'm not approachable, and I'm even less approachable in a place of the country like this where people are probably intimidated by me. There's not really like a ton of meatheads working out at the gym who would like, come up and say hi to me, and I'm kind of shy,
Yeah.
So, I'm having trouble with that, but I do have friends up here that's just a little out of the way. Going to put more effort into it. It's just nice when you like see the same people at the gym every day and say what's up to them. It gives you a little sense of community. I don't have that right now. But I got my girlfriend, I got my family, I got a couple of friends up here. So, shit's working. It just kind of feel cool being like the only guy up in the cloudy, rainy Northwest,
Yeah.
So there's that.
So you must have loved it going down to Texas filming with Gasp last week or the week before. Where were you there? You must have been in heaven with all these big guys.
Yeah, I mean, because there was a bunch of pros there, for Keon's ceremony thing that we were there for, and like I trained harder for sure with my buddies down there. Which I came back and I was like beat up. I actually just finished up a deload this past week, because I was like just fatigued. Everything hurt. Like I couldn't recover from all that shit that I did down there. Great sessions, but I overdid it.
Dude, your shoulders were like, one video when you were doing the pulls, your shoulders look like another level, man.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys like that down there. There's like none up here. So I do like coming and visiting and training with my buddies from time to time, because we do bring it up a level, and I'm going to try to make my way back down there to Texas at some point during prep, probably early May. I'll have to talk to MJ about it, but just shoot some videos. It's always fun being down there.
One of the things you said in the video was you used to train with anger, paraphrasing a little bit, and now that's changed. Was it just what was the mindset?
I mean, I was an angrier guy back then. And I don't know. I'm just kind of like more. I used to be like more like this emotionally, bigger peaks and bigger valleys. And I'm a little more leveled out now, which is good in like every aspect of your life for the most part. It can be difficult to bring that same level of intensity when you're in the gym. But I'm learning to do it. I think of it more as a task now. Not that it's not a fun task, but it's like I have a goal here. So I'm not just trying to squat 6 plates. I've done that before. I can't do that now. I'd hurt myself, but it's not like it's not working. Branch Warren trains the way he trains, and that works for him.
He still trains like that. Fucking crazy.
He still does. Yeah, that man needs to donate his body to science so he can study his tendons, because they are tough. But so he that works for him. And what I've done is like I've really gotten good at like recruiting a certain muscle. I'm not like one of these squeezy feely guys when I'm in the gym. I'm not like going super slow and all that shit. Like I'm still lifting as heavy as I can with good form and keeping the load on what I'm trying to train in any given movement. But it's a little more focused than it was a few years ago when I was just trying to move big weights. And it's like both ways work, to be clear. I'm not going to tell you one way works or the other. I kind of have to train like this now because stuff hurts. I'm not that old yet, but I'm starting to feel like it. Shit just hurts that it didn't used to.
So what do your rep ranges look like on average?
Shoot. I mean, I used to do sets of 4, 5, and 6 on like barbell squats, which would destroy me now. Leg work, nothing under 10 or 12. Pressing, I'll do like 6 or 7 sometimes, mostly like 10, 15 kind of range. And smaller muscle groups, I'll work in the 10 to 15 kind of range. But I generally, my training setup is lower volume, high intensity. So I'm taking all my sets to failure. I am very regimented with my form. Again, not slow motion, that kind of shit. Yeah, right. So, I'm trying not to use a stretch reflex, bouncing out of a squat or something like that. I'm trying not to cheat any movements. I'm trying to move the weight with the muscle, with intent, with a lot of load on the bar, or as much as I can. Um, so, and it works for me, and it's kept me. I haven't had any major injuries. I've had aches and pains like anybody does at this level.
You
But
got to stop saying that. You say it out loud on a lot of podcasts. You need to stop that.
what?
Saying, "Oh, I've been injury free."
Yeah, I know. I'm going to jinx myself. Knock on wood. But yeah, I think I do attribute that a lot to the way that I train. Because if I was still doing what I was doing a few years ago, I think I would have probably done something by now.
Do you think people in general in the gym are putting too much focus on, bend at this degree, do this and that, versus just old school, get under the squat bar, just leg extensions, bench press? Well, if you bend yourself this way at a 20-degree angle, you'll hit the deltoid a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
There's a place for that at a high level, I think,
Okay.
when you're trying to add little bits and pieces to your physique. But if you have, 22-inch quads and they need to be 30, you just need to get strong at squatting.
Yep.
Not in like ones and twos, not doing powerlifting shit, but like you need to get your squat up. If you're squatting 315, it needs to be like 455, 5 plates for the same number of reps. And then we can talk about like getting anal with stuff. So generally, like, I think I hate doing like what's most important, because it's really all of it's important, right? But like, I think intensity and recruitment are the two most important things in the gym.
Sure.
How much workload you're doing, how much volume, that's kind of secondary. You'll figure that out. You'll feel that out as you're learning to train, right? How much can I recover from? But intensity and recruitment are most important. And recruitment is basically, you don't have to have textbook perfect form where everything's perfectly still and stable for you to recruit a muscle effectively. Because Ronnie was like rowing 4 plates, and you're not going to tell me he wasn't recruiting his back,
Of course.
So like it doesn't look pretty, but he was clearly getting a stimulus out of that, and he was probably feeling it,
Yep.
So yeah, you need to set yourself up properly to do a movement properly, but don't get lost in the details, man. If you cut the load that you're lifting in half because you're getting so particular with like how I brace everything and set up my elbow and drive my elbow and go slow, like you are missing the forest for the trees. And I mean, not everybody, but like a lot of people who do that, they're just small. The proof is in the pudding, man. Like, I think between those two things, intensity and recruitment, intensity is more important.
Sure.
Assuming you're not hurting yourself, but like just going hard it's worked for all of the best people in the history of the sport. So there's not going to be a study out there that tells me different. If there is one, I'm sure there is one, actually. I don't care. It's done on untrained individuals who don't know how to train properly, who don't have their diet or anything in check. It's like, it's not really applicable to somebody like me or somebody who's trying to be good at this sport, because you have a bajillion other variables: drugs, food, sleep. It's like you can't control for all that in a clinical setting. It would be unethical to. So you have to, when you're looking at like scientific kind of stuff, you have to acknowledge the inherent limitations of any study that you're looking at. And I think the nerd bodybuilder crowd kind of skips over the limitations that should be like first thing in the abstract when you're reading a paper. It's like, no, they put the conclusion in there. This is the right amount of volume, or this is, RPE that you should use, or whatever it is, I think that is their biggest failing. Like they're not acknowledging all of the things that they're not controlling for.
Exactly.
In their studies. And I wish we could control for that, because like I'm an engineer. I went to school for engineering, man. I like science. I like controlling variables. But, looking at this whole landscape of exercise science, it's like, it's the proof that it's not, it has limited applicability is that you can find a study that will contradict another study like that.
Of course.
It's like because, and you say, oh, science is changing. Yes, it does. But like, it changes back and forth. It flip flops. So that tells me that there's something wrong with your methodology.
Yep.
Not that you're not trying your best, right? These guys are academics. They're working hard. It's not easy to do this, but it's inherently limited, I think.
Yeah.
That's my science rant out of the way. Sorry.
So mechanical or electrical, or what'd you get your degree in?
Mechanical. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
My dad is an electrical engineer. He's a software engineer now, but yeah, I wanted to kind of go into like, building widgets and mechanical systems, and I ended up in the construction industry because they will hire anyone with a pulse. I mean, I think, to be honest, when I was in college, I was focused on bodybuilding a lot. I was not focused on academic extracurriculars. I wasn't in like the engineering clubs or like the formula club.
Yep.
I wasn't doing internships because I wanted to compete. And, so maybe that wasn't the best thing academically for me, because I mean, there's a lot of, I don't want to call it nepotism, but like if you interned at an engineering firm before you graduated and you're looking for a job, like that's going to be your best bet to like go. If you hung out with those guys and you could have a beer with them, like they're going to want to hire you. So, I shot off job letters or applications to like a ton of places, but I ended up getting hired in the construction industry because, I mean, you don't need a degree to do that work. It is project management. It's paper pushing. It's number counting. It's busy work for the most part. It is work, but it wasn't intellectually stimulating. So anyway, I worked in that a couple of years after college, from 2020 through, halfway through 2023. And it was a living, it was a job. It allowed me to get my meals in. I could train after work. Everything was good.
Sweet.
But I had no passion. I had no interest in proceeding with this career. I saw it as a job, not a career. Like, this isn't something I want to advance,
Yep.
I'm just showing up. And, I had a good season last year. I started to get more clients, and I was like, I'm going to take this leap of faith here and see what happens. And so far it's worked out pretty damn well. So, assuming I don't get injured this year, it's going to keep on that trajectory. And I'm very blessed to be in the position that I am, because I'm getting to, do what I love for a living. And what more could you ask for? It's awesome.
Definitely.
So,
Stu, what goes into your mindset when picking out shows? Like when you get the calendar for the year, what goes into your mindset? How do you pick?
This year, it was like, is it in the States? Cool, I'm going to do it. I mentioned before we were on the air, I'm doing New York, California, and Toronto. Those are the first three kind of like regular shows of the year here in the States. Toronto's in Canada, but
close enough.
And then I'm going to be, I don't expect to win any of those, honestly. Nick is doing New York. That's a shoo-in. He's going to get his qualification. Tony is doing New York too, and he's going to do California the next weekend. So again, I don't think I can beat Tonio realistically. He's really good.
Okay.
But if I get in like a top call out there and just, this is my job now, right? So last year I did 2 shows because I had to go back to work and I burned all my PTO. I couldn't keep doing shows. So, now I have as much PTO as I want. So I'm going to do more shows, and I understand my place in the league right now. I have not reached like where I'm going to be, but eventually all these pros, like they kind of reach a cruising speed, I like to say. And it's like, okay, you're kind of in the mix to win any show that you enter, or like you're a favorite to win. That's kind of where I want to be eventually. I don't expect to ever be like top 5 in the Olympia. I'm not delusional.
Really? Okay. So what's ideal? 10?
If I could sneak into a top 10, like that would be amazing.
Okay.
And that's, if you're consistently winning shows and consistently qualifying and consistently placing decent at the Olympia and showing your face there, like you can make a good career off of that.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to beat Derek Lunsford. I'm never going to beat Nick Walker. I'm not going to say like that's what I'm going to do, because I don't believe I can do that genetically. I just don't have that. you know, we'll see what happens in the next few years, but I'm not going to set unrealistic goals for myself. It's just not how I roll. A guy like Nick,
you're one of the few, Stu, because I'm a big follower of Lee Priest. Okay.
Yeah.
And people always used to say to Lee Priest, said, look, same thing. If I can crack top 5, top 7 of the show, and Chris Cormier, those guys back in the day used to say to him, dude, how can you go with that mentality? He'd say, I'm 5'4". When's the last Mr. Olympia you saw that was 5'4" that won?
Yeah.
And I think it's a great attitude that you have, that it's realistic.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, man. I'm not a religious man, but God gave you what he gave you and you can't change it. So, a few more years, I think I can kind of be at that level where I'm a favorite to be winning shows, you know, going into predictions and stuff. But, yeah, I don't expect to ever be at that tier. I'll train like I'm trying to get there. I mean, I'll do what I need to do, but I also maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot by thinking like this, but it's just how I have to frame things in my mind, because the idea of like competing to win a show and then you get like second call outs. How crushing would that be? I don't ever want to feel that. So, and you know, Nick, we were just talking to Nick the other day on our podcast, the Fit Nation podcast. He hopped in there, and he's like, he doesn't like my mindset. He's like, you need to like think like you're gonna win and talk like it, because like that's what he's done, and that's what he has, and he's proved himself because he's that good. I would never talk like that personally. I just don't think that's like
it might be
the amount of shit that I would get.
When you get that first win, that might change your mindset.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe my head will blow up then, but I hope not. I don't know, man. I want to be a career bodybuilder. What an awesome job! Like, I'm thankful to be even like doing this, right? So, any placing that I get at this level is like, I think it's a blessing, you know.
Yeah, you know, people want you to win, Stu, but I think, not because you're my guest, but the fact that people are happy to see you at the show. Just Stu is showing up. Stu's going to bring his best, and they're there for you, regardless of win, lose, or draw. Yeah,
I mean, that's my mom always shows up and supports me like that. You know, like
mom's supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm going to make a career out of this, and you know that's my goal. If I get to a certain level past what I thought I was capable of, then great. I mean, I've already done that. Like, I didn't expect to come in and win the USA as my first try. Not many people do that. Yeah, so you know that had the potential to go to my head, but then I went to the Tampa, you know, the next weekend and got my ass kicked. So it kind of kept me, you know, served me some more humble pie there, which is good. I think I need that. So,
do you have in your mind every year how many shows you want to do? Obviously, it's only your second year competing, but you say, look, I got to do at least 3 every year.
Well, so I'm doing the first 3 I mentioned, and then there's a break. There's going to be some European shows. There's the Dubai show, and then in like, when is it? Like mid-July, early July. There's another string of shows. There's Vancouver, Chicago, and Tampa, which are all, and then Texas, which are all kind of like 1 or 2 weeks apart. Yep. So that would give me a little chance to, like, after Toronto, you know, take a little break, like detox a bit, and then like ramp it up, and then do Vancouver and that next string of shows. I mean, you'll get.
Broad's got, I think, Detroit in June, I think, right after New York.
No, Detroit's in April. Like, it's early.
Oh, April. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Fua's not too fond of me, so
okay.
I ain't doing that show. But I think, you know, if I were to win one of those shows, like those first 3, like I said, I don't expect to, but if I were to win one of them, I wouldn't continue. I wouldn't do the rest of those shows that I'm thinking about. I'd try to shut it down and, you know, set myself up for the Olympia. But I just want to, my goal this year is to, like, you know, be in the first call, be in the mix in all these shows, like win some prize money. That's cool. Getting paid to do this is like the craziest thing to me still. Like, when I got money at New York, I was like, what the fuck?
Now the prices have gone up a little bit more. There's more
Yeah,
money in the purse
that's
now.
cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
only for first place.
Oh,
Or
second
excuse me,
too.
for
It's
first and
first and
second.
second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Excuse me. So that's cool. Yeah. Uh, I never thought in my wildest dreams I would start making money off of this. If you look at the whole balance sheet, I'm still in the red
Yeah.
badly for bodybuilding in terms of like prize money versus what I spent on it, but it's something. That's cool. But yeah, I'm gonna just keep on showing my face and um, try to. If I the thing is like at this point, my physique is one that needs to get lucky. I need to show up at a show where there's not some Nick Walker who's just gonna walk away with it, right?
Yep.
So I'm not gonna like go and pick my shows. The best way to do that is like I don't know who's doing what show at this point, so I'm gonna show up to a lot of them and try to look as good as I can at all of them. And I like competing. Some people don't like getting on stage. They don't like the whole peaking process. But I really enjoy it, and it's even cooler when I'm there with like friends of mine. In New York, I got some buddies I'm going to be staying with, they're absolute hoot.
Sweet.
And then California, I've got some friends there too. The guys that I do the Fit Nation podcast with, they're all over in LA. So they're going to be at that show. That'll be fun. But yeah, I know some guys in Canada too for Toronto. I like doing this stuff. I like being in that environment and showing up and being on stage. So why not?
Stu, what's your opinion on social media and like how often a pro should be posting?
Well, you're not going to be making. I have some friends who are bad at this. They have the potential to be like good professionals, but like they have good personalities too, like personalities that people would love to see.
Okay.
I think of one guy in particular right now. I won't mention it, but because I've told him this, but he's so bad at sharing who he is on the internet, and I'm bad at it too. I'm getting better at it, but I personally I'm better in like the long form kind of stuff, like podcasts, which is why I like going on them.
Yeah.
I know I'm articulate. I am. People like listening to me. I still don't understand why, but they do. So like lean into it, right? I'm still working on social media and stuff. Are you asking like how frequently should you post pictures of yourself leading into a show? Or
yes, I'll tell you where I'm going with that because I feel you have people like, let's just say Samson. I love Samson, but I feel like every day, and it's notorious, maybe not Samson, but a lot of times pros post their stuff consistently, and then the day of the show, they show up and it's like, they look like crap. Where's the person that just posted the last 30 days in a row? And I feel that kind of intrigue of what are they going to look like is gone now. Stop posting like 2-3 weeks before the show. That's my opinion.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it does take away the intrigue because they always show up looking like different than they do on the internet, So
True.
I think I don't have any problem with it. I mean, they have to. It's their job to produce content for social media, get likes and engagement and comments and interaction like that. That's how they sell supplements for their sponsor. That's how they promote themselves as a face. Does it get a little repetitive? Yeah, I mean, good God, James Hollingshead had posted so many garden pictures of him checking in. I think he's just excited. He looks really good because he hasn't done this in years past. He looks sick, right? So I'm not bashing Hollingshead. I think he's great, but yeah. So it does take a little intrigue away, but at the same time, I don't personally do this, but some people, do wild shit to peak for shows. A lot of diuretics. They can spill when they're loading up. It's like it really is a crapshoot because these guys don't show up like they look like on the internet at the show, and they're creative with their angles and lighting and filters and all that stuff. I'm not saying they're being purposefully deceitful of their fans, but none of it really matters until you're on stage. All the rest of it is just like you're doing your job. You're running your social media business. You kind of have to think of it like that. So yeah, I don't have any problem with it. I think it allows. I'm still a fan of the sport deep down. I might be in these shows, but I'm a fan of all these guys, and it lets me follow along and be like get hyped up for shows. And I hate making predictions because, like I said, shit goes haywire all the time. But it gets you hyped up for it, and I think it's a good thing. I think
Okay.
I don't really think when bodybuilders try to be like cute and do like influencer shit, it always comes off really cringy and weird to me. Like, dude, it's not who you are. I know you. Like, when they're just making like trendy kind of content, which is like a little too. It's not them.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
fit what they look like and their personas and all that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I got no problem with people posting pictures. Yeah, gives us something to talk about on silly podcasts like this, right? So
There you go.
I like it. Yeah.
So as we wind down, let's talk Apollon. How did you connect with them? How did they get on your radar?
So they right after the New York last, well, it was a little. I don't remember. It was a little before the New York. Um, we got in touch with each other. Carolina reached out to me. Actually, Lucas Rakowski.
Yeah, yeah, no, Lucas, very well. Yeah.
Yeah. So he actually reached out to me on Instagram at first, and he was like, "Hey, I'd like to put you in touch with this company," and they'd been looking at me apparently, and so I got in touch with them. This was back in like June, I think,
Okay.
and nothing kind of went anywhere for a little bit, and then Guy actually reached out to me. Guy Sister Nino.
Yeah, yeah.
Guy's cool. I didn't know him at all before this, but
He's another character. I love him to death. He's a character.
he's a character, yeah. But like, he's just a Jersey guy. People misunderstand that. They think he's an asshole, right? But like, and I thought he was an asshole, right? I think, who's this prick? He shouts a bunch, like, but like that's just his personality. And people like West Coast guys like me, they don't get it.
Yeah.
So I understand now, and I love Guy. But Guy reached out to me because he saw that I still didn't have a sponsor, and he knows
Right.
Rob and Kay and Apollon real good, and he put me back in touch with him, and then I signed on in October this year. So shout out to Apollon.
And that was a great video. You sitting down, reading your report or whatever you're doing.
It wasn't great. It was purposefully bad. But
No.
that was the point. Yeah. So like, I'm not gonna. Like I said, I don't like it when bodybuilders try to do like content that's like ritzy and well produced and stuff. And like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's really us. So I tried to make it the exact opposite of that, and as low budget and crap as I could. And I thought that was funny. I don't know if anyone else did.
Your hot rice video was solid too. That looked almost professional.
Yeah, I have a good camera, I guess. So I did work on the lighting a bit, but whatever. Yeah, so I mean, Apollon is like, them, they're a small company, but the products that they make are like second to none quality wise.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't like sitting here and shilling, and I'm not going to. But like when I started using their stuff, I actually noticed an improvement in my workouts,
Awesome.
which I didn't honestly expect to say. But like, it's all the little extra stuff they put in there. Like, yeah, the headline numbers on their pre-workouts are like, the high caffeine amounts, right? There's some crazy stimulants in there, but it's all the other little stuff that kind of adds up to make it like a balanced formula for their pre-workout stuff, and like their intra-workout, their EAAs, for example, that I use when I'm training. Like, there's the EAAs in there, which is good, and then there's a bunch of hydration stuff in there. There's like electrolytes and coconut water. Is there? I'm trying to remember. There's a lot of little other goodies. Yeah, there's a lot of other goodies in their products that kind of take them to the next level. And maybe some people wouldn't notice that, but like at the level that I'm at, like I do. So, and I think one of the nice things working with them is like, they're a small company. I talk to Carolina and Rob directly.
Yep.
So I'm not like going through some athlete manager and, jumping through hoops and can't get a hold of anybody. Right. I just give them a call, and it's nice. I just talked to Carolina this morning because we're going to be going to the Arnold in a couple of weeks. Yeah, it's only a couple of weeks away. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. I'll be meeting you there, which is cool.
And you'll be signing foreheads and everything else, right? For free, not $50 or anything.
Yeah. Free of charge. I'll have a tip jar. Okay. a little shaker cup full of quarters. But go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I mean, I've never been to one of these expos before. I've never been to the Olympia. I've never been to like the Arnold or FIBO or anything crazy like that. So it's going to be a crazy experience, exhausting, but
Yep.
like I said, I really like going to these events and being around people that do what I do, because there's not a lot of that up here in Washington where I am now. It's kind
Yeah.
of
Okay.
just me doing my thing. So to be in that environment is fun.
Just make sure, because it's going to be zooey. So just make sure that you're able to walk away when it's mealtime for you, because otherwise you'll be sitting there eating and people will be tapping you anyway. Just disappear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, I'll be dieting at that point, so I'll be
exactly.
able to finish up my food a little faster. I'm not a big eater, man. I have to eat a ton of food to grow, but I got to force it down for like 3/4 of the year until I'm dieting. So
Okay.
I'll be eating a little less then, which will be nice. I'll be able to get it over with quicker.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I like talking to people and hanging out and just shooting the shit. I think I mentioned earlier, like I still kind of think of myself as an amateur. Like as far as like what I'm doing, my day to day and all that stuff, it's still like
Yep.
what I was doing 2 or 3 years ago. So like my mindset hasn't changed. Like I'm on a bigger stage and people give a shit for some reason, but
Yep.
like I'm still doing the same stuff. I'm still me, and I like to hang out with people, whether they're, you know, Nick Walker or like, just Joe Schmo who's done a couple shows. I don't care.
Yep.
I like people.
So beef. Come look at your name here.
Damn it. Sean.
Stu, as you wind down, okay, quick question. Which pissed off people more, when you didn't win the New York Pro or when you cut your hair?
Probably the hair. Yeah, I wasn't mad about the New York at all. I think Tony deserved to win that. I think it could have gone either way.
You got a lot of backlash when you cut your hair off at one point.
Yeah, it was stupid too. I regret it. Fortunately, hair grows back, as you can see. But give me a couple months. When I'm in New York, it'll be a mess again. Just wait. But okay. Yeah, like who else looks like the wig? People think it's a wig, So because everyone's hair falls out, and I mean mine, I'm confident mine's not going to. Maybe I'll eat my words eventually, but like my grandpa, he just passed away. He was 102 years old though, and he had a full head of hair.
Okay.
My other grandpa, he's 90. He's not even all the way gray yet. Like
wow.
Yeah. So I feel good that this is, even with everything that we do in this sport, I think I'm gonna hold on to it. So I gotta sell some stupid T-shirts with like a afro outline or something on it. I'll probably make money on that, dude. That'd be a good idea.
Oh my God. So Stu, last question, and we'll kind of call it a day here. Give me your Mount Rushmore bodybuilders.
Does it have to be 4? Or how many
people
are on Mount Rushmore? First 2 are Tom Prince. You know Tom Prince?
Wow. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I mean, I was a huge fan of he was, the way that he was put together and like the way that he flowed and everything. His 96 USA look was just unbelievable. I would
DeMayo and Craig Titus. They're all going at it.
Craig Titus was he won that USA's, which was a fucking robbery. But anyways, Tom Prince, later in his career, he didn't place as well as I think he should have, because he kind of like got a little blown out, like waist wise, and that was his strength beforehand. He had really good abs, crazy taper, but then he got probably a little too big. Unfortunately, he just passed away recently, which is really sad, kidney failure. And then Evan Septipani, I've always loved Evan. Like, ever since he made those animal cooking videos like forever ago, where he's like grilling the chicken, he's like, oh, this is how I flavor my rice and all this stuff. Like Evan just kind of seems like he could be your dad, So I love Evan.
Evan was a guest. He was a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and he's another guy that's like super articulate. He's well thought. Yes. He's not just a dumb meathead. And there's a lot of those guys out there. No offense, like you don't have to be some poet to be a bodybuilder, right? That's not part of the criteria. But like, I really admire Evan because he's a more balanced guy. He's a father. He has hobbies. He repairs tractors and welds stuff and does man shit. God, those are the 2 that come to mind.
You shocked the hell out of me with Tom Prince. Wow.
Yeah, that's a little left field, I guess. Those are my top two. Those are my favorite
No
guys.
Mr. Olympias?
Well, those are kind of easy picks, It's like, yeah, okay, they're really good. You can't not like Ronnie just because of the way that he trains and his energy. Do I find that relatable at all? Fuck no. I can't train like that. I don't look like that. That is just otherworldly, right? Generally speaking, the guys that I look up to and the guys that I admire are like guys who don't have the best shape and structure and genetics and all that stuff. Like they're hard workers, Actually, like a guy like Branch Warren,
Definitely.
Just because he doesn't take no for an answer, and he overcame like disadvantages, like genetically, I guess, that other people probably just wouldn't have, just because he worked harder. And I have some genetic gifts myself, but I try not to think about that because it gets you in this weird mindset of like, yeah, I could get away with not being as conditioned or not working as hard and still place well because I have a little waist, That's no way to live, that's no way to be a bodybuilder. It's like you're leaving shit on the table because you just can't get in that mindset, So like you should bodybuild like you're shaped like a fridge, and it will serve you better than if you think, oh, I'm so pretty, even if you are. So,
oh man, well, Stu, it's truly been a pleasure. This hour has flown by, and really, man, I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you? Plug social media, your 86 podcasts you're on, everything else.
God, yeah. So my Instagram handle is beef_Stu_97. So go follow me there if you care to. And like we were talking about earlier, me and a couple of my buddies do a podcast every Wednesday and Sunday called the Fit Nation Podcast. If you look up Beatty Farrell, it's on his YouTube channel. So we're kind of trying to get that off the ground. It's going pretty good. Like we have a lot of fun on there, and we'll talk for like 3 hours. Like that shit just flies by. I don't know why anybody watches that. I don't watch any bodybuilding podcasts anymore because I do too many of them myself. I'm like, I don't want to listen to this shit.
you just on Canadian Beef also?
Yeah, like a week ago or something. Yeah, and those guys are cool too.
Yeah, I just started following them as well.
Yeah, Robin. I like Robin a lot, dude. He did New York, and he's one of the few guys backstage that was like chatting with me and talking and like kind of having fun. Everyone else was pretty focused, and I didn't want to like start, having fun, joking around because like I'm the new guy, right? But I like Robin. He's good people. So
sweet. Well, Stu, again, it's truly been a pleasure. For everybody listening to this, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. If you're at the Arnold, make sure you come by the Apollon booth. Say hi to Stu. Say hi to myself. And as always, thank you so much for checking in. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Matt.